Okay. Hello, my name is Jenna Pecor. I am a realtor in the DFW Metroplex, and I'm here today with Miss Kelly.
Hi,
Hi. And yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Kelly Stone. I'm with Rising Point Solutions. I am a credit expert. I've been doing this for about 8 years, and we're going to talk about credit and real
Yes.
estate.
Well, and you might think to yourself, why does credit matter now? What we're worried about is paying our bills at the moment, and how's that all going to work? And so Kelly had reached out on some social media groups, and she and our friends on Facebook, and she's like, let's do some videos while we're in the middle of this. And she asked me yesterday what I wanted to talk about. And at the time, I didn't really know. But I started listening to, I listened to a podcast this morning with Dr. Yoon. He is the chief financial, he's a financial advisor for the National Association of Realtors. And he was talking about what's going to happen when all this is said and done. And when I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that's a perfect topic for today's conversation, is like, what can we be doing in our time that we're kind of sitting here waiting? Like, what could we be doing to be proactive? Because there's going to come a time, probably sooner than we think, where the housing market is going to take off, and we all want to be prepared for when that happens. Yeah. So, and by the way, can you all see that sun? That's called sunlight, and it's behind me. It's good to see it today.
We barely have sun here. I'm thankful that we have a little bit, but we could use some more. So send it up to Chicago too.
So yeah, I wanted to kind of ask you, like, I know that, like I said, it seems weird to be thinking about credit, but like, what are some things that people could be doing right now, especially if they're thinking about they really would like to buy a house and now they're kind of discouraged because they don't know where their income's going to come from, but they also maybe have the added stress of what does my credit look like and how can I fix that? So what could they be doing now?
That's actually a great question. So I want to backtrack. You had mentioned something about people worrying about paying their bills. Right now is the best time to be proactive with that. If you are worried about being able to afford your mortgage, or if you're worried about being able to afford your utilities or your credit card, you don't want to let any of that go. You don't want to just say, I'll deal with it later, or I'm not even going to worry about that. Contact the companies. It's no secret that we're not able to work in a lot of cases. And right. It's not like we have just decided, you know what, I don't feel like going to work today.
Yeah, right.
We're legitimately told not to leave, especially in Chicago, Illinois, New York, California. We're being told, don't go outside, don't travel and see family and friends, and absolutely don't go to work unless you are deemed mandatory for the economy. So we are all in this situation right now, and we have to be prepared. But letting your credit go, letting the bills go, and just saying, I'll deal with it later, not the right step. Because taking that 15 minutes to make the phone call and call your banks and call your creditors, that's going to save you literally years of headaches. Because one late payment is going to drop the credit score completely, right?
Yeah.
We've seen one late payment drop the credit score up to 110 points.
Right.
That's not what you want to do to prepare.
Well, and I would say, like, and you're in the credit industry, but what I would assume and what I've seen is the beauty of us all being in this together is that all the companies know that they're going to be getting these calls. So it's not like they don't have things in place for people. So one question I have is that you were kind of talking about not letting it go. There might be a lot of people that have never ever had to deal with being late on a payment before, and have never had to call and had that conversation. And I know that that's something that might give people a lot of stress and anxiety. And so maybe talk to the people, not the ones that maybe have already had to deal with creditors, but maybe the ones that haven't and had to ever have that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know for a lot of people, it's hard. It's hard to admit, hey, I may not be able to make my bills this month. I've never been late in my life. And this is something that, we're so proud of, what we can do. And we don't want to accept help from other people. But this is the time more than anything to accept that help. You want to call up and you want to speak to somebody in the bill department, the customer service department. You want to make sure, try to get a manager on the phone more than anything. Again, like you said, these people are dealing with the calls on a daily basis at this point.
Mhm.
So if you're calling up and you're being proactive, and always make sure that you're being nice. I know this probably sounds like a simple suggestion, but you may be frustrated. Don't go into the call angry, frustrated. You want to make sure that you are going into the call with like this mindset of, I'm thankful for any help I get. And then the other thing is like with credit card bills, at least making the minimum payments, even if it's not really helping at the moment, you can try to get a limit increase. Maybe you're having to use your credit card right now for bills.
Mhm.
See if you can get a limit increase, but make sure no matter what that you are paying the minimum. We are all in this together. One late payment is not worth what it's going to do to your credit for the long term. If you can make that $25, $50, $100 payment, making the minimum is going to be saving you so much time and frustration in the future.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good point about being nice, because when you there's a lot of us that maybe have never had to deal with like a real actual creditor, but maybe get scam callers that call us and they pose as creditors. And I want people to understand, real creditors don't talk to you like that. Most of the time they don't. And trust me, I've dealt with it before. Yeah. Not all of them, a few of them might be, but those scammers, the really aggressive ones, that is not what your call is going to be like. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, definitely.
No, yeah.
We're news stories about that too. People are getting scam calls. If people are calling you, typically, that's not what you want. You have to be calling the creditors. The creditors are being bombarded right now, so they're not going to be making phone calls to you. If you're receiving phone calls from creditors or they're trying to get you to make payments now, just don't respond. If you need to hang up, hang up.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, the people that are like that are going to take advantage of our feelings of stress and anxiety. And, I hate that it's that way, but that's how people are in these types of industries, that are the scammers. So just don't give your card out. Don't give your social security. Don't do any of that right now. But,
yeah.
So people are now making one thing I did want to ask you, when you were talking about talking to them about making your payments, what do you know about what the mortgage relief, some of the mortgage relief things that the government is doing? Do you know anything about that at the moment?
They haven't really announced too much. From what I read in New York, they're actually pushing back any foreclosures.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple things that they're doing: loan modifications and forbearance. I want to make sure that I'm very clear on this. If you want to buy a house or refinance anytime in the next few years, don't do a loan modification. Do not.
Why?
That is the worst, because with a loan modification, they make you, you have to be late to get a loan modification. That's the qualifying mark, because why would they modify your loan if you're paying it on time? Forbearance is what you want. Even if at the end of the forbearance, you have to come up with some kind of lump sum, you want to make sure you're doing forbearance, because the loan modification is the late payments that drops the score. The forbearance puts it all on hold. So there's a very big difference in regards to loan modifications and forbearance.
That's a good point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I think that a lot of people need to hear that, just in case, So let's say that someone already was in a credit situation before we got here, and now they're like, okay, now what do I do? And let's say that they had income, everything was fine, but now they're in the middle of this, and they, are still wanting to buy a house, but I know what happens is a lot of times our minds go on freeze mode, where it's like, okay, I can't think about the future. I'm thinking about the right now. But I feel like in times like this, that is when we have to be thinking about the future. And I'm not talking about being nervous about the future. I'm talking about being excited about the future and knowing that something good is going to be coming down the line very soon. So still treating, even though we're in this, still treating the future as if it's a good and positive, optimistic thing. And that means you can still be doing things right now to get yourself ready to buy a house. So what can people be doing in terms of just with regular credit issues right now?
Yeah. So basically you want to, the biggest advice that I can say is make sure that you're paying your bills on time. just to be clear, paying off a collection will never help raise the credit score because it's not a balance sheet of what you owe. So if your attempt to raise the credit score is to pay off collections, it's not beneficial. Save that money. Save it for...
Say that again, because my clients need to hear that.
One more time.
Say that again.
Do not, well, I can't say legally not to pay something, but if your goal is to raise your credit score by paying off collections, that won't happen. The credit report is not a balance sheet of what you owe. So it's not like this check mark of if I pay this off, pay that off, it's going to raise my credit score. Absolutely not. It is a history of how you've paid. So when you go through and you pay a collection, that's just updating that history. That's just updating that already negative account, and it looks more current. So save that money. Now's the time to save that money. You're better off saving it for a down payment than paying off a collection, or using it to actually repair your credit as opposed to paying off those collections. So keep your credit card balances down if you can. Again, remember, this is extraordinary times that we're in, and the circumstances are going to be different. If you can, make sure that you keep your balances down. If you can't, I mean, do what you need to do, but make sure that you're at least paying the minimums on everything, and call your creditors. If you're nervous about not making a payment, call them now before the missed payment happens. Otherwise, they're kind of like, you didn't ask for help. So
Exactly. You know, and I'm so glad that you said that, because working with loan officers, when people tell me I know that my credit's too bad and I'm working on paying off all the stuff that I owe as far as old debt, I immediately say, before you do one thing, call your loan officer first.
Yeah.
Because they need to be able to look. And sometimes those old debts, because there is a difference between debt to income and like what you can pay and all that stuff, and what your credit score is. Those are two different things. Do you have a kiddo back there?
I do. My kids, obviously there's no school. Come here, Ryan. Do you want to say that? Peek your head up. No, peek your head up.
Hey! Hey there! Avery's, she's 9. She's in her closet. She's made herself a little reading nook, and she decided to go in there.
Well, he's only 4. He's not
reading out today.
And he's a little
my goodness!
As he crawls into the ball on my lap.
See, okay, this is the deal. Like, a lot of people get so nervous about the other person that you're talking to on the phone. You are a credit repair specialist. All these people that are all these debts, the banks and the car dealers, this is who they are right here in front of me. They're kids, they're people just like you with kids that are sitting at home doing the same thing that you're trying to do.
Yep.
So don't be nervous about it. Just call them and talk to them.
Exactly. Trying to keep a roof over your head, food in their little mouths.
That's right. Exactly. How are you today?
Can you say hi? And I know that most people are dealing with this as well, working taking conference calls. So I'm thankful for this.
Like, right before we decided to get on here, my daughter has been really big about, like, she wants to make videos all the time. Like, we don't put them anywhere, but she just wants to make videos. And so we had to make, as I was doing my makeup, we had to make a makeup tutorial video. That's how we had to do that today. So we're all just trying to deal with all this stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the collection. I think that people just don't stress out about that right at the moment. You know what I mean? So what about one of the things is use this time to educate yourself on something new, whether that's credit repair or something that gives you a skill set that might give you a little bit more income to be able to take care of these things. Yeah. So I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great piece of advice, because while we're kind of stuck at home, we should be doing things to better ourselves and better our lives. And I mean, you want to make sure that you're having extra skills at the end of this.
Yeah. Not like kid wrangling skills down there.
Yeah, exactly. He just likes to get comfortable in my lap.
Of course. Well, who doesn't? I mean, do you work from home normally?
I do. I have my own desk space, but I think that the internet has just been crashing in the neighborhood. So I can't be but a couple rooms from the modem. This was the best spot. And so I'm actually sitting in my bedroom.
Well, I work from home too, and this is another point. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I think it's a really good point to make, because a lot of people are working from home that have never had to work from home.
Yeah.
This is what working from home looks like. It really is. You're having to do all your stuff while you have a child that also wants attention, and rightfully so. Yeah. And you're having to kind of balance all that. Yeah. So does he normally go somewhere during the day, or is he home with you?
He has daycare. Him and his brother, they both go to school, but their schools are like half days. So
yeah. So how have you been balancing all that since this happened?
Working on lesson plans and trying to keep them as occupied as possible.
Yeah, that's crazy. And do you have are you married?
No, I'm not.
No, see, I'm not either. So I'm a single mom that's home by myself.
Yes.
There's no help here, as far as, I mean, her dad is around, he's just not here.
Right.
And obviously she can't go over there because he's been traveling. So we're trying to keep us quarantined from each other, which stinks. Yeah. So it's like, she can't see him, and so we're doing a lot of FaceTiming, a lot of things to like keep her busy. And, but it's a challenge. It's hard to do this and also keep a really positive mindset when things are going on like this. And you've got all this stuff going on. I don't know if you felt that way, but I sure have.
Oh, lately. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but he's been working too, so.
Yeah. So if people want to get a hold of you, like how can they do that?
So our website, risingpointsolutions.com, or my email directly is my first name, Kelly, Kelly, at risingpointsolutions.com. It's just with all the phone calls and everything that we're handling, because we are still doing a lot of work, a lot of business.
Really?
Yeah. People are still focusing on their credit, because it really is, like you said, you want to focus on that now so that you can be ready for the home buying process.
Or cars, because man, those cars they're offering some crazy deals on cars right now.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, and I'm Jenna Pecor. If anybody in the DFW area needs a real estate agent, or you want to ask questions about that, I'm here. You can find me at jenna@jennapecor.com. That's my email. So.
Well, thank you, Jenna, and thank you for the time. I'm gonna end the recording just in case he does it for me.
All right, bye.
Thank you, bye.